Mark Teresi sitting in for Father Greg Sakowitz, here with Dr. Jim Rigg, Superintendent of Catholic Schools. And in this segment, we're going to be talking to Representatives Father Richard Peddicord and Richard Borsch from Fenwick High School. Fenwick High School offers students and their families a unique high school experience. They offer a learning resource program which is designed for students who have the ability to achieve academic success, but they require individualized support in accessing the rigorous college preparatory curriculum that they offer. The Learning Resource Program is supported by various departments, particularly the Student Services Department. Students do not only become college-ready academically, but also ready for life. And here to discuss the program at Fenwick is Father Richard Peddicord, who's the president of Fenwick High School. Welcome. And Richard Borsch, who's the director of college counseling. Welcome to WNDZ 750 AM, and I am turning this over to Dr. Jim Rigg.
Great. Well, good morning, Father and Richard. It's great to chat with you. It's funny, we were just talking in the last segment about the importance of serving students of a variety of backgrounds, and it is neat to hear that Fenwick High School has made this commitment to serving different types of learners, including those who might need particular supports. So why don't we start with you, Father Peddicord, as the head of Fenwick High School. Why is this important? Why is it important to work with those who might need those extra supports?
Well, thanks, Dr. Rigg. It's great to be with you today on the radio. And, you know, at Fenwick, we really do pride ourselves of having a community that is diverse, that is made up of all sorts of people that share our values. And the student services dimension of the school is just another aspect of our commitment to building community, and a community that is strong in our Catholic identity, but is also reaching out to underserved populations.
That's great, and I think our schools have such a good reputation, a well-deserved reputation for academic rigor, not every student is necessarily ready to jump with both feet into kind of a highly rigorous, charged environment. So, Richard Borsch, you're the director of college counseling. Tell us a little bit about kind of the specific supports that are offered at Fenwick.
I think that one of the things you would be interested in is the fact that we get kids from so many different environments, and sometimes a school that's a selective enrollment school or highly driven toward college placement, people assume that everybody who walks in the building is going to hit the ground running academically at a fairly high pace. This might be illustrative of what you're asking about and what we see. Even on the day of the entrance exam, for instance, I've had teachers who are proctoring the exam come in, and we have rooms where kids can get individual testing environments. And they go, why do we have to have that? And I said, look, we've got homeschool kids. We've got Montessori kids. We've got kids from schools from all over the metro area, 100 different junior highs, some of whom literally have never taken a standardized test before. And so that's emblematic of how they walk into this environment, which has some very traditional lecture-oriented, content-heavy classes. And if you don't realize that, I think you're being pretty foolish. So we have two people who are special ed certified. Both of them are from our background, from our institution, who are educated here and then on to college. So they help the faculty serve these kinds of kids, particularly in the early years, freshman and sophomore year.
I think that's a wonderful commitment, and I know that, first of all, we have seen more and more students in our grade schools identified as needing extra supports or identified as being with special needs, of having special needs. And secondly, there's a lot of good research behind this. A diagnosis of special needs has nothing to do with intelligence, capability, or potential. Often it's a matter of unlocking perhaps a different way of teaching that child or surrounding that child with some extra accommodations and support. Richard, can you give us some examples of what sorts of diagnoses and things students are coming to Fenwick with?
Well, Doctor, you know exactly what we're seeing. We get kids with organizational difficulties. We get kids who are auditory learners. We get kids who are visual learners, kids who can't work with systems yet until you teach them how to. We have kids who have never had homework by policy of their school, which, as you know, is somewhat of a growing trend, not a large trend right now, but a growing trend. And all of that needs to be dealt with. They need to be walked through. If you go back into some of the research, even in the dark ages when I was going to college, you know, the process of education, Brunner's process of education says you can teach anything to a young person if you break it down into understandable terms. And that goes for systems. Kids can be successful in a very demanding traditional environment if you break down the steps necessary for them to do so. And I think that's basically the approach we take. And this transition program is relatively recent, within the last 7 to 8 years, but it's had a wonderful success rate if you look at, you know, the metrics, the success rate in terms of who still is in the seats sophomore year and go on.
Now, Fenwick has a tremendous reputation over the years as being an excellent academic institution. In fact, my former boss at Mundelein Seminary, Bishop Bob Barron, is a Fenwick grad, and he talked about his love for Thomas Aquinas actually became alive at Fenwick. What kind of a curriculum does Fenwick offer? I mean, that's pretty sophisticated. Thomas Aquinas, and all of a sudden he's a bishop promulgating Aquinas' teachings.
Well, I don't mean to steal Father Peddicord's thunder, but I've been here a long, long time, and I try to simplify our approach to parents who are considering the school, saying, look, the Dominicans go all the way back to the Middle Ages, to the rise of the universities. And my perception of what their philosophy is, you have to be able intellectually to understand morality and your religion and life in general if you're going to be a good school and a good person when you leave. If we're going to be a good school, and they're going to be a good person when they leave. And I think what they do is let kids understand that learning is important in their life.
Right.
4 years of foreign language, that goes all the way back to the Trivium and the Quadrivium in the medieval universities. I think we're one of the few that still requires 4 years. 4 years of theology, of course.
Richard, just a moment, please. We're going to take a little break. I want you to continue when we come back, and I also want Father Richard Peddicord to give us his take as Order of Preacher Dominican on the charism that infuses the school. So, Catholic Chicago, 7:50 a.m., WNDZ. Mark Teresi sitting in for Father Greg Sakowitz, Father Jim Rigg, Father Richard Peddicord, and Richard Borsch. We will be back in a few.
Where do you go when you realize that you or someone you love needs assistance at home? Where can you turn and know you will get sound advice that you can trust? Catholic Charities' Home to Stay program offers competent help and peace of mind to seniors and to their family members. Our thoroughly trained professional caregivers provide companionship, assistance with seniors' basic needs, and help with light housework, all in the comfort of a senior's own home. Schedules can be flexible so seniors receive only the help that they need and want. Most of all, Catholic Charities has the name and reputation you can count on, with more than 100 years of experience helping people at transitions in their lives. To learn more, call 312-655-7415. That's 312-655-7415. Make the most of each day with Home to Stay.
We invite you to watch Catholic Chicago this weekend, featuring a conversation with Cardinal Blaise Cupich and video highlights from across the Archdiocese. Here's host Todd Williamson.
We'll walk with the participants of the Immigration Posada and hear about the challenges facing immigrants today. We'll show you how high school students devoted their time and talent to a group of military veterans, and you can enjoy the sights and sounds of the City Lights Orchestra performing its first ever Rector's Christmas concert at Holy Name Cathedral.
Watch Catholic Chicago Friday at 7 p.m. on Chicago Loop Cable, Channel 25, and Sunday afternoon at 3 on the Comcast Network, Channel 100.
Look forward to an afternoon of elegance on Sunday, January 26th, when Catholic Charities hosts A Toast to Charity at the 19th Annual Divine Affair event at the Union League Club of Chicago. Guests will be able to sample from a wide range of premier wines and craft beers from around the world, along with food stations featuring gourmet hors d'oeuvres and desserts. International experts will be on hand to help guests learn how to appreciate and buy the right wine and beer selections for their next gathering. There will be special auctions being offered and fantastic raffle prizes just waiting to be won. Proceeds from this event go to Catholic Charities self-sufficiency programs that provide shelter, clothing, counseling, and other services to families in need as they journey on a path to long-term stability. Come join in the fun for an important cause. To learn more about the Divine Affair, please call 312-655-7907. That's 312-655-7907.
Welcome back to Catholic Chicago, 750 AM WNDZ. Mark Teresi sitting in here for Father Rigg Sakowicz. Father Richard Peddicord, president of Fenwick High School. Father, how does the Dominican charism imbue the spirit at Fenwick?
You know, Fenwick High School is the only high school in the United States sponsored by the Dominican Friars.
Oh.
So as such, it's an institution that we can really focus our attention on, and the place where the Dominican charism of preaching in particular, where study is undertaken to be of service to the greater community. And one of the things that I'm very proud of at school is our theology department, of course. It's kind of the heart of our mission, the formation that takes place there. The capstone experience is a semester course on Dominican spirituality.
Oh.
So all of our students are introduced to the thought of Thomas Aquinas, of St. Catherine of Siena, our great Dominican heroes and thinkers and those that worked for justice in the world. And really everything about the school really is grounded in those four pillars of Dominican life: prayer, study, community, and preaching. And it makes us really a unique institution.
Well, Fenwick has such an outstanding and well-deserved reputation throughout the Archdiocese, and knowing you and having a chance to get into Fenwick, I fully agree with you that charism is so ever-present. I started my career, I mentioned before, in Memphis. The school where I was a teacher and an assistant principal was sponsored by a group of Dominican sisters out of Nashville, and I mean they were just so sharp, and the way that the Dominican charism just influenced everything we did was just so impressive, and I think the same is true at Fenwick High School for sure. Mm-hmm. Now, Father, you also have some construction happening there on campus, I know. Tell us a little bit about what's going on.
We do. We're looking forward to the year 2029, which is our 100th anniversary. So we have a centennial campaign going on. Right even now as I speak, we're putting in a much-needed parking structure. Being in Oak Park, very urban, we want to make sure that everyone can participate at Fenwick, all of the extracurricular things, our alumni. The parking structure doesn't sound that glamorous a thing, but it's so required for a strong community in our time, as well as we're looking toward, in addition on the school, to do upgrades for our band, music, and choir program, which is very strong, but our facilities need to kind of match really how great our kids are in those areas, as well as another practice gym. Given our Chicago weather, we need even more facilities for the indoor sports in the early spring. So and what we're very happy about, of course, is the support of our community in making sure Fenwick is sustained into the future.
It's wonderful. And Richard Borsch, I know this is a very busy time for you as well. Anybody who's involved in counseling, you're working with juniors who are thinking about college, you're working with seniors who are applying and hearing back from colleges. Give us just kind of the quick lowdown on college placement. How many of your seniors usually go on to college? How much in scholarships do they receive? What are your primary feeder universities, et cetera?
Well, we're extremely proud of our record in terms of placing our kids. It's rare, and I mean exceedingly rare, that everyone in a given senior class doesn't go on to a four-year university. The big feeders, Illinois Urbana traditionally has been our largest receiver. We just had 70 kids admitted out of a single senior class on their early cycle. Oddly enough, or uniquely enough, Marquette is the first school other than Illinois last year that became the number one receiver out of the entire. I've been doing this for almost 50 years, and we had a Catholic university jump up to number one. The Big Ten schools are very big. Notre Dame is extremely receptive to our kids. We had almost 10. We had 9 kids admitted early. The Villanovas of this world, the Boston colleges, Vanderbilt, Northwestern, Chicago, but a lot of very solid, smaller liberal arts schools, both public and private and Catholic, receive our kids. Last year, out of a single class, 31 states, 2 foreign countries, and over almost 100 different universities received kids out of a class of about 280. So we're very pleased with the quality and the diversity of the places to which our kids are going, that we believe are right fits. To me, that's the most important factor, right fits for each of those students to progress in their education.
If some parents are listening, why Fenwick? Why Fenwick?
Because you can have, it's the advertising slogan almost, because you can have it all here. You can get a wonderful education if college placement is what you want, and that is your end. All right, if that's the end game, you can become a person more well-versed in a moral life, whether you're Catholic or not. About 20% of our kids are not Catholic. And really on a pragmatic level, Doctor, I think one of the biggest advantages of going here is even though it's a rough go, perhaps maybe an academic gristmill of a sort while you're going here, the payoff, and I can't tell you how many times the college students have come back and said, wait, we now understand why it seemed to be so difficult, what you expected of us, because college is, if not a cakewalk, in many classes, it's easier than what I experienced.
Well, and financially, I know, it's hard for families to look at that tuition at the Catholic high school level and think about affordability. And I don't live near Fenwick High School, but I do have a child in a Catholic high school and another one on his way there next year. And when I think about my own budget, it's tough. There is a sacrifice financially, but as I often say, you're paying it forward. I mean, the millions and millions of dollars that our kids receive in college scholarships, I mean, you're going to save money in the long term. And our counselors do a great job at accessing scholarships, no matter the performance of the child.
Well,
we're going to we're going to be bringing this to a close in just a minute. I wanted to just direct one final question to Father Richard Peddicord. Where do your alumni fit in? What's your message to alums in terms of supporting Fenwick?
Yeah, certainly. We need everyone's participation, everyone's support. And one of the things to build on what Mr. Borsch was mentioning about the value of being at Fenwick is that we'd say, Fenwick Friars, it's for life. that you're part of the community, and the school is here for you beyond just the 4 years that you went here. And the bonds of friendship that I see among the alums, it's a lifelong commitment to being Fenwick Friars together, and it's very, very important.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'd like to thank Father Richard Peddicord, president of Fenwick High School, and Richard Borsch, director of college counseling at Fenwick, for your time, and what a wonderful sharing of the beautiful gifts that Fenwick brings, not only to your students, but to your alum and to the city of Chicago.
Yes.
And I'd also like to thank Father for the presence of the Dominicans in this archdiocese.
Amen.
What a gift you have been.
Absolutely.
And continue to be here in Chicago.
Thank you.
Well, God bless you all, and I would like to thank Father, I did it again, Dr. Jim Rigg. He is a father of
I am
four.
a father, lowercase f.
Father of four, superintendent of Catholic schools, for a wonderful Catholic Schools Today show here at WNDZ, 7:50 a.m. Please keep Father Greg's mom in your prayers, and stay tuned.